So Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners stay active in the transfer portal, getting their fifth edition via the portal. This time, former Oklahoma State Cowboy Trace Ford has announced his intention to transfer from Oklahoma State to the Oklahoma Sooners. And this is a really interesting addition, one we absolutely have to break down. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes, N for no. Are you surprised that Trace Ford chose Oklahoma? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive. And we're on a push to see how close we can get to 20,000 subscribers before the new year. And I would love nothing more than to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners remain active in the transfer portal, as I said to start off this video. Something we saw Brent Venables do right when he got to Oklahoma last year, something I'm not surprised whenever we see him continue to do, especially when we look at some of the additions he's gotten, and we'll break those down here in a little bit. But first and foremost, I'm really interested in Oklahoma State this offseason. We've seen several key players of theirs hit the transfer portal, and I'm just really intrigued to see how Gundy's going to navigate this whole situation. I'm absolutely going to be watching. But it's super intriguing whenever you have Trace Ford go from Oklahoma State to the Oklahoma Sooners. First off, the move's not going to take very long. Second off, that's a game that has deeper implications. It's for bragging rights of your state. And it's also a series that's going to be coming to an end sooner rather than later, no pun intended. Especially with Texas and Oklahoma's move to the SEC being debated as to whether it will happen 2024 or 2025. That's something we have got to keep an eye on. But it's just interesting whenever you see a player make the move from an institution like Oklahoma State to Oklahoma, because they're going to be seeing each other, and those are games that have deeper implications than a simple win-loss. And now I'm going to be even more intrigued than I already am to watch the next Bedlam. So what does Oklahoma get in Trace Ford? Well, Trace Ford stands 6'3", 240 pounds, and he had 6 tackles on the year with 1 sack. And if we look at Trace Ford's best year, it was 2020, where he had 15 solo tackles and 4.5 sacks. This is an individual that Oklahoma can absolutely use as depth on their front, and that's something we have talked about during lives, during videos, you name it. We've really taken a look at that Oklahoma front and said that's an area that they need to address in recruiting and the transfer portal, and they've done a very good job. Let's not get anything misunderstood here. You look at the recruiting class, you have PJ Adebayor, a 5-star edge. I think that guy is going to be really fun to watch. You have LeBlanc in the middle. So this staff has addressed some of these needs, but it's great to see that they continue to address them via the transfer portal, especially because you get something with guys out the transfer portal that you don't get with guys out of high school, and that's experience at the college level, and that's something I think can be very impactful, especially when you're trying to bring along a lot of new guys. Getting a room full of experience can help bring along that room. And this is Transfer Portal Edition number 5, as I said, to go along with Reggie Pearson Jr., Deshaun McCullough, Austin Stogner, and Jacob Lacey. And I think every single one of these additions makes a lot of sense. When we look at Reggie Pearson Jr., you want to strengthen your secondary, and Pearson Jr. was someone who was very impressive this year. He is not afraid to come down into the box and assist in stopping the run. So I love that addition. We've talked at length about Deshaun McCullough. This is someone who I sent in the group chat the second his name appeared in the transfer portal, not knowing where he would go, and said to everybody that would listen, hey, this is a kid y'all need to watch. This dude right here has got a lot of intriguing ability, super versatile. I'm really going to be interested to see where he ends up. Well, lo and behold, it was the Oklahoma Sooners. I think that is a huge addition. I think the McCullough addition is one of the biggest wins for the Sooners, both in terms of transfer portal acquisitions and in terms of recruiting wins. I truly do believe he could have that much of a profound effect for this Sooners team. So love that one. Austin Stogner coming back, I think that's a great addition. He's got a rapport with some of the guys on the team. But not only that, Oklahoma needed the tight end depth, and I think that's going to be very impactful for them. And then finally, Jacob Lacey, defensive lineman. And one thing we've talked about is that the one area I want to see the most improvement for the Oklahoma Sooners next year is that interior defensive line. I think that's an area where they need to continue addressing it via the transfer portal, continue recruiting it very well. And that's not just relegated to Oklahoma. I mean, that's the current state of football. You look at these guys on the interior defensive line. If they can play, they're going as top 10 picks in the NFL draft. Don't believe me? Watch Jalen Carter this year. That guy's going to be a top 10 pick, and I'd bet copious amounts of money on it right now. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch film of Jalen Carter, I'd point you to that LSU game and focus in on him, and he is throwing grown men out the club at will. That guy is freaky. Point being, your interior defensive line guys are a hot commodity in the NFL. Why? It's because they allow your defense to generate so much havoc. And especially when we look at this Brent Venables scheme, if we go back and look at these Clemson defenses, they had a strong interior presence, and strong might be a little bit of an understatement. They had a vaunted interior presence, and that's exactly where the Oklahoma Sooners need to get. Why? Well, I don't want to bore you all with talk of schematics, but at this point, if you've been around my channel, you know me. I love schematics. And quite simply because the Brent Venables defense commands that you have really physical guys on the interior that can soak up the offensive line blocks, allow your linebackers to run free, to start gashing the running backs, to start gashing the quarterback, allow them to have no resistance from the offensive line. And then on top of that, the interior guys are generating pressure as well, allowing your edge guys to have more efficient time getting to the quarterback, so on and so forth. Basically, what I'm trying to say is you need those big nasties on the interior to soak up all of the pressure so that your edge guys can have an easier time getting free, so that your linebackers can have an easier time getting free. And in the event that you call a blitz, now all of a sudden that offensive line realizes the danger that's in front of them. They've had a linebacker go right through their gap because they were so preoccupied by the defensive lineman. Well, now the next time they're going to try and chip to get that linebacker, the defensive lineman's going to go right around him, get a sack, get a tackle for loss. You get my point. That is why the interior defensive line, specifically for this Brent Venables defense, but we can take that and extend that to every defense that lives in the modern era of college football. That interior presence is paramount, and I love to see that Brent Venables is strengthening that front. I'm super interested to see what other moves are to be made to continue strengthening this team. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you think about this addition. I think it's super intriguing to see a player go from an institution like Oklahoma State to Oklahoma, because even though every time I call it a rivalry game, Oklahoma fans hop in the comments and say, this isn't a rivalry game. We have straight up owned this series, and that's fair enough. You absolutely have. I consider rivalry games to be something with a deeper implication as opposed to just a simple win-loss, and bragging rights for your state is something I consider to be a deeper implication. However, that might just be me being me, and that's completely fair if you disagree, but I think the one thing we can all agree on is that it is intriguing to see someone move from an Oklahoma State to an Oklahoma, and it'll make that Bedlam game a little bit more interesting. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.